Hey there, friends. So today we're going to be talking about Jodi Arias. Arias gained national attention for murdering her boyfriend, Travis Alexander. Arias had claimed that she killed her boyfriend in self-defense, but he had 27 stab wounds, a slit throat, and was shot in the head. So jury didn't necessarily believe that she would have gone that far to just protect herself. The only thing the jury couldn't decide was whether or not she deserved the death penalty. So Travis Alexander was born on July 28th, 1977 in Riverside, California. His parents were Gary and Pamela Alexander. His father died when he was just 8 years old, and his mother seemed to have lost custody due to a drug addiction. So he moved in with his grandparents along with his 7 siblings. He admitted that he would engage in a lot of fights growing up, but he joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and was able to find more peace within himself, and he stopped getting into trouble. Alexander grew up to be a salesman and a motivational speaker for prepaid legal services. He was apparently extremely funny and did a stand-up comedian act under the name Eddie Snell. Jodi Arias was 3 years younger than Alexander. She was born on July 9th, 1980. She was born in Salinas, California, to her parents William and Sandra Arias. She didn't graduate high school because she decided to drop out when she was in 11th grade. She attended Eureka Union High School. She really wanted to be a photographer, and she figured she didn't necessarily need any type of diploma to be a photographer, but instead she just worked several odd jobs, and then she got a job at Prepaid Legal Services, the same company as Alexander. They were just in different states. So at this point, Alexander was in Arizona while she was still in California. So Arias and Alexander met at a work conference that was located in Las Vegas, and this was in the year 2006. They immediately hit it off, and she just kind of fell in love with him, and she decided to join his church and converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Alexander was the one who baptized her on November 26, 2006 in Southern California. This was shortly after they had met. I'm not sitting here questioning her Christianity or questioning her faith, but I do wonder if she simply got baptized because she was trying to appeal to Alexander's beliefs. Although the couple seemed to really click, they didn't actually begin to start dating until a few months after her baptism, and this would have been in February of 2007. At the time, Alexander was living in Mesa, Arizona, and Arias was so committed to him and devoted to making the relationship work that she moved from California to Mesa, Arizona to be closer to him. However, in April 2008, they split up and she moved back to California, this time to Eureka, California, to live with her grandparents. The details are a little murky here because then they continued to date intermittently for a year and a half, and they tried to make a long-distance relationship work between his Arizona home and her California home. The relationship was really difficult for Alexander because he was very much devoted to his faith. But in his religion, he was supposed to be abstaining from sex, and the two were being intimate. So he went through a lot of inner turmoil in the relationship, which many people believe to have contributed to them breaking up and getting back together so many times. But even with all the turmoil, when Alexander and Arias were not together and he was dating other women, they were still having intimate conversations through text message. He just really had this conflict because he kept a blog, and based on some of the things that he said, he really wanted to marry a woman who was a virgin, which kind of eliminated Jodi from that equation, but she was so in love with him, and it was flip-flop everywhere. One of his friends said she was really weird. For example, one evening, Jodi started straddling him and sucking on his neck, even when people were around. He kept on pushing her off, but she was super possessive and just really insistent. Jodi hated when he would pay attention to anybody else besides her, especially if it was another female. That just wasn't acceptable to her. Arias would follow Alexander to the bathroom and wait outside for him. She would even eavesdrop on his conversations. She went through Alexander's cell phone on multiple occasions, as well as his emails and social media accounts. Arias would go so far as to forward emails between Alexander and other women to herself so she could read at a later time. People didn't like Alexander and Arias together. Alexander's friends didn't like her and thought she was extremely toxic, and her behavior was rather bizarre and weird, and she was crazy. At one point, they even said that she was stalking him. Friends started noticing that they were becoming volatile, and it just wasn't healthy. Many of them warned him about her being crazy, and he obviously didn't listen, but many of them were rather worried about his safety. At one point, one of his friends recalled even telling him, "I'm afraid we're going to find you chopped up in her freezer." From early on, she was completely obsessed with him. So Alexander was supposed to show up for a conference, and he was a no-show. His friends began to worry about his whereabouts, and on June 9, 2008, he was found at his home in a pool of blood. It turned out that he was like that for 5 days. His official murder was determined to be June 4th, 2008. He was found with over a dozen stab wounds, a deeply and widely slit throat, and even a gunshot wound to the head. So what the heck happened? So Arias was immediately the main suspect, and she was indicted on first-degree murder charges on July 9th, 2008, so only a month after he was found. She initially denied any involvement in the crime, obviously, because no person would really just openly admit to brutally killing somebody. But police had quite a bit of evidence, including her DNA mixed in with his blood at the crime scene. After realizing that they didn't believe her, she decided to change her story up a bit. So she said that 2 masked men stormed into the home, brutally attacked Alexander, but out of the kindness of their hearts, they allowed her to leave. She didn't want to be honest with the police because the intruders were going to come back and kill her if she told. Unsurprisingly, the police officers didn't believe the story at all. During the trial in 2013, she changed her story again and used the self-defense route. She would recount her side of things for 18 consecutive days. In the end, she said that she killed her ex in an impassioned act of defense because Alexander was frequently abusive and she was afraid of him. She said that she killed him after he came at her in a fit of rage when she dropped his camera on the ground. She couldn't remember all the details though because she was unfortunately dealing with memory loss due to the emotional trauma from the terrible incident. The defense even had a psychological expert that came in and corroborated this and said that she was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. In the end, we don't fully know exactly what happened since she never was honest about the events that happened in his home. We do know that she brutally attacked him, but we don't know how that happened, how it went down, or how she overpowered. We don't know any of that. On May 8th, 2013, Arias was found guilty of first-degree murder. There was a mistrial in the penalty phase because the jury couldn't agree whether or not to give her the death penalty. The penalty retrial began in October 2014 with a new jury, and they revisited the same evidence presented in the first time around. This time, the focus was on the psychological makeup of both parties. So with the defense attempting to portray their client as this vulnerable woman and Alexander as emotionally and physically abusive. On March 2015, the second jury was unable to agree on Arias' sentence as well, so they removed the option of the death penalty and leaving punishment terms to Judge Sherry Stevens. On April 13th, after expressing remorse of her actions in a statement, Arias received a life sentence without the possibility of parole after 25 years, and she began serving her term at the Arizona State Prison Complex, Perryville. All right, that's it for me, you guys. Thanks for watching The Crime Happens Here. Be safe, be kind, bye.